Stand. Hi, everybody. We'll just give it a minute for everybody to get their sound on and situated and all of that stuff, and then we'll get going. Great. Welcome to David M. Hunt Library's Winter Greenhouse Tour with Bosco Schell. I'm Meg Scher, the Executive Director of the Hunt. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few events we have coming up. This Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m., we have our fabulous fundraiser, A Midwinter's Night in the Village, featuring sweet and savory goodies, as well as local musical talent and readings focusing on love and laughter. Tickets are $20 and can be purchased on our website, huntlibrary.org, or at the door. Next Saturday, February 18th at 1 p.m. in the library, Master Wildlife Conservationist Ginny Apple will present The Fearsome Foursome. Ginny will discuss the habits and habitats of possums, skunks, raccoons, and porcupines. Today's program, like almost all of the programming offered by the Hunt, is free. We depend on our patrons' support to sustain the library. If you'd like to donate to the library, the link to do so will be in the chat. Today's talk will be recorded and will be posted on the library's YouTube page in the next few days. You can access that by clicking on the YouTube icon on the top right-hand corner of the library's homepage. Without further ado, I'm going to shift over to Paige Dickey, who's going to introduce Bosco and bring us into their fabulous greenhouse.
Hi, Meg. Hi, everybody in Falls Village and the Northwest corner. I wanted to just say how we got here into this place. When we moved here 8 years ago, we left a property in North Salem, New York, where we had a really lovely greenhouse, 2 bays of a old restored Lorne and Burnham greenhouse. And Bosco, he grew 100 tomatoes from seed. He had all sorts of South African bulbs and lots of geraniums, and he just loved it. But the whole idea of moving here was that we were going to downsize. And so no greenhouse, Bosco said, no greenhouse. And I said, okay. So we moved up, and after a year of trying to find enough windowsills for his geraniums and his begonias, he said, oh, Paige, I miss my greenhouse. So we got a kit from a place in the Midwest, I think it's called Arcadia Greenhouses. And Bill DeVries, right here, local wonderful builder, knew it came in pieces, numbered pieces. And Bill DeVries knew how to put it together. And so here it is. Welcome to Bosco's Man Cave.
Thanks, Paige.
My man cave. Well, I also like to call it my playpen because the purpose of this greenhouse is not practical. It is purely aesthetic and pleasure. I love plants and I miss not having as many as I had before. So we bit the bullet and built the greenhouse. And it's been, I must say, a source of unadulterated joy. Today, of course, being a beautiful day, is not when you want to be in a greenhouse, but I can tell you that in the winter, especially when there's snow in the ground or it's raining, or it's so wonderful to come in here at any time of day and smell the plants, smell the earth, play with them, and make more. One of the things that I love to do, and do excessively, I might say, is propagate plants. I just love to. I can't cut off a piece of a plant and not stick it in the soil and make another one. So as a result, I have more than I know what to do with. And you will see that this greenhouse is just stuffed to the gills with plants. I move them around. I take them to the house, bring them back. But anyway, there are a lot of them. I know them all. They're all friends. And so you will meet them. Now here is my nursery, so to speak. Some of the young plants that I started from cuttings. They're mostly geraniums. Actually, they are all geraniums. And then there's some others. My primary interest is in geraniums, pelargoniums, we should call them. Pelargoniums are really what they are. Geraniums are what are called cranebills outside in the garden, but pelargoniums are part of the geranium family, but we call them geraniums. Anyway, so I have geraniums, two kinds, zonal geraniums and center geraniums. And then I love succulents because I like the structure, the shape. And then I have various other few plants that I just fall in love with. And then tuberous begonias. I mean, rhizomatous begonias. Those are the things that I concentrate on. So you will meet them all. And I will start off with some of the pelargoniums. So here we have some what are called zonal variegated. This, for example, is Vancouver Centennial. It's a beautiful hybrid that was bred in Canada in the 80s. This one here, as you can see, it's zonal because it's got a zone in the middle and it's got different colors. It's got yellow, green, and black. It is known as Mrs. Cox. However, it's also known as Mr. Cox. And if you look very carefully, there is one called Mrs. Pollock, which is almost exactly the same. So you've really got to look with a microscope to find out which one it is. But I think it's very pretty. So that's a zonal. This is a zonal. This is called Empress of Persia. I think it's a very pretty color. And then these here are variegated because they're, as you see, green and white, are platinum. And I love them because they bloom all the time. They're single, they're not double, they're not fancy, but they just bloom all winter long, keep putting out flowers. Of course, I have to cut them back all the time, which I've done, take off the dead flowers, and then they bloom even better. Okay, so then we have scented geraniums, which are also in the pelargonium family. They're scented because they have an oil at the base of the leaf, and you crush the leaf and you smell it, and it can smell of apple, cinnamon, there's old spice, innumerable different ones. This one, this is apple, and actually you can smell apple when you smell it. This one is old spice. This one is gooseberry. And the label says, uses fruit salad, teas, punch, jellies, potpourri. So, you know, they're useful also. I've actually used some of them in apple jelly, and it's quite good. Their flowers, this is a typical scented geranium flower, a big one. A lot of them are barely visible, the flowers, but I think they're so spectacular. And again, you crush the leaf and it smells. It smells a little bit of baby. And then some of the scented geraniums, like this one, I'll give you show a small one, have these wonderful patterns on them. This is called Charity. I don't know whether you can tell, but you see, it's green, dark green, and then light green all around. It's wonderful. And then this one here is called Snowflake because it has white blotches on it. I don't know why the markings on the leaves, but the scent, supposedly all pelargoniums are South African. And supposedly they evolved with the scent to inhibit grazing animals from eating the leaves. They don't like the smell of it. That's the common wisdom. It's true or not, I don't know, but it's a good story in any case. These up here are what you would have called ivy geraniums, and they do grow like ivy. Of course, they're not in bloom. I told them to be in bloom. They're not, but This one, for example, I love the name. It's called Regal Blood. It's a real dark red, but unfortunately, it's not showing its thing. This is a very nice one. I forget what it's called, but it's a simple one. It's not scented, nothing. It's just not. It keeps blooming all the time. And this one is Celoides. Has a flower which I've just cut off because it got to be too long. It comes all the way down, and it's one of the two scented geraniums that in Africa was used by natives in medicine. It's Celoides has something to do with the lungs, so they made some kind of concoction for pneumonia or whatever. But anyway, there are only two. The others are useless as far as practical because they're just pretty. This one here is a scented geranium. It's called Attar of Roses, and it is sort of the queen of one of the two, I think, queens of scented geraniums. Again, it just smells wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And the other one, if I can only find it, there's one called Maple Gray, which is even, where's Mabel? Where's Mabel? There's one Maple Gray, which is even better. This is also a scented geranium. It's a baby. It's chocolate mint because it has brown spots on it. This one, believe it or not, is a scented geranium. And I believe somewhere I read that it was a heavily handicapped scented geranium because it's got all these curly little leaves on it, but it's wonderful. And again, it smells. We call it Colancho. In England, it's got a very fancy name, which I have not retained, but it's wonderful. And here's a baby one, see? And it'll grow huge. I had one last year, which was 6 feet tall. So this is Colancho. And then these are all different ones. These are zonal geranium. There's one that last year, which is called Sister Henry. I think it's this one, Sister Henry is red, actually not in bloom right now. Anyway. This one is an ivy, Swiss balcony. The typical evocation of the image of Switzerland, all the chalets have these window boxes overflowing with geraniums. Well, this supposedly is one of them. It's pink and it blooms a lot and it hangs over and it's very pretty. And then here, the different one, this one is zonal. I love. It's a double and it's called tulip geranium. And it just, again, just keeps on blooming all the time. Tulip geranium. All right, and then here, these are just little ones. This is also a scented geranium. Yeah. Okay. Now, when we go up here, that is a wonderful scented geranium. It's peppermint, and boy, does it smell peppermint. Ah, it's just you can just crush it, and it's your hands are oily. Anyway, that's up there. I have a baby. This is Valphinium. It's a bulb. It's a South African bulb again. It blooms in the winter. It comes in pink, and I also have some yellow ones. They're a little bit slow over there, but it's quite spectacular. Unfortunately, this is in its third year, and there are only 3 blossoms. There should be. Originally, there were 5. But, you know, it's getting along in years. So next year, I have to repot it and start again. I have found, you know, citrus is such a wonderful thing to have in the greenhouse. You know, my lemon and oranges and this and that. I have found them such a pain because they always catch some kind of a bug. So the only one I'm left with is this calamondine orange, which produces these tiny oranges. It's a cross between lemon and kumquat, I believe. I know it's partly kumquat. And it produces these tiny, they're the flowers. It's just coming to bloom here. And which cake These are other, almost geranium because it's got this mark on it, and it's a lovely one. It's a lovely pink. I should add, as you know, that during winter, some of these plants go to sleep and they don't really produce a lot of flowers. It is just now that they're beginning to come alive. And I don't fertilize in the winter at all. Not even that once a month kind of thing. I start now, the 1st of February, I start feeding them. And I will feed them once every 2 weeks to bring them really into flower. Okay, so now we have here the succulents. And, you know, I mean, you love them or you hate them. Paige doesn't care for them so much. She says that they're much too stiff. I find them fascinating because I find the form fascinating, and they bloom. Nobody thinks that they bloom. Look at this, yeah, this little jade. See that orange? This one has already bloomed. They put out these plumes that are really quite wonderful. This one is about to bloom right there. Anyway, and then this has tiny little pink flowers at the ends. Somebody told me it's called Buddha's altar or Buddha's something. It's wonderful. It's now just about to bud up and coming to flower. But look at these little tiny little buds at the end. Okay, so these are the succulents, and of course the succulents need to be where it's the sunniest. One of the challenges or facts of my greenhouse is that there are a lot of different plants that require habitats. There are those that want humidity, and there are those that want dry, those that want hot, warm, those that want cool. Well, sorry, this is, once for all. So the only differentiation that I can make is that this is shadier. So I put the plants side that are less sun, and of course this is the sunniest facing west and south. So I have the love sun, more sun the better. Don't like it too humid. We like it dry, please, and cool. Well, too bad, because my begonias like it humid, warm for the most part. So they've got to share. All right, here, a good example. Jasmine loves it very sunny, cool. Well, it did produce a couple of flowers, so I'm pleased with that. So then these are various things that I'm fond of. This is a family called Plectranthus in the mint family. I've cut it back, and the nice thing about Plectranthus is that it blooms in October. You can put them out in the garden. I mean, they don't stay. They can't stay out all winter, but you can put them in the garden. And when there's nothing left in bloom, these things put out blue flowers. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. So they will do it in the greenhouse too, but to a lesser extent. And they're minty. And I've just cut them back. And this one is called Zulu Warrior, and because it has these wonderful, very red stems, and the backs of the leaves are all red. You see, dark red. So that's that. These are peperomias. This is called string bean for obvious reasons, which will now bloom. It probably needs to be fed because it looks a little bit yellow, but we'll see about that. These are South Africa, which I'm trying to have success with. This one has red, and then I've got a couple here too that I hope will bloom. Let's see. So then we have this, which I think is all right. It's called the paddle plant. This one here. It's called the paddle plant. And the more sun it gets, this different coloration. So that's what I like about this. This is a shrub that I was given to, so many of these plants were given to me by good friends. And this was given to me by a friend. It is what you have in the garden. It's a cotoneaster. that you see in gardens, but it's a very, very fine leaf one. You can barely see the leaves. It's just a silhouette. What can I tell you? It's just, I just think it's fun. Then these are Tradescantias. They're named after John Tradescant, the elder and the younger, who were like a 17th and 16th and 17th century, 17th, 18th century plant explorers. There are 85 different Tradescantias and species, I mean, growing naturally. These are 3 of them. And what's fun about it is that these are North American, I mean, American plants. These are not from China or the Himalayas or Japan or wherever we get plants from. These are from the Americas. Anyway, as is this one, Delbergia. It's called the Queen's Tears. I mean, doesn't it look like tears?
It does. It's beautiful.
And it's the easiest plant. It doesn't require anything. You can forget about it. You need to water it about once a week. You stick it in the corner, and all of a sudden, this time of the year, these things appear. And you don't have to cut it back. You don't have to weed it. You don't have to do anything to it. Occasionally repot it because it gets to be too crowded in there. But I just think it's wonderful. This is another Plectranthus, which, if planted outside, becomes a shrub. It's beautiful. I don't know. Again, it's one of these things, you have to spend time with these plants. It looks very, very washed out. I'm not sure whether it's getting too much sun, too little sun. I keep moving it all the time, trying to figure out. You see the back now, it looks better. So we'll see. This is called, it's not blooming right now, Society Garlic. Has a very pretty pink flower. And now we're getting into my begonia phrase. You see, there's some hanging. Well, this is something else. This is something that blooms. Anyway, these are that's a begonia. This is called Madam Queen. And these are begonias that have a tube, almost like a tube, that is a rhizome that stores water. It's almost like something. So they don't like to be watered too much, but you never know, because sometimes they look as if they were dying of thirst and you water them. No, you've watered them too much. So it's I have to figure out what happened. But anyway, all these, and the interest in these is not the flowers. Yes, they do flower. I mean, look at these flowers. This is a begonia flower, and it does it in February, January, February, these sprigs of white or pink flowers, but it's the leaves. I mean, look at this one. This, by the way, is Falls Village grown because it was given to me by Mary Sinclair from her mother-in-law's begonia. So this is a real native begonia, and I think it's beautiful. It's a Rex begonia. I mean, look at the coloration of the leaves. I always think that somebody who designs wallpaper ought to design wallpapers based on the leaves of begonias. This one is called Marmaduke here. Again, I mean, I think the leaf is just wonderful. This is, I think, Kit Kat. They have different names, and then some of them get huge. Those are, no, this is something else. This is not a good one. Back here, those are cane begonias, and they bloom on top. This is a cactus. This is called the rickrack cactus. And believe it or not, it's also called fishbone cactus because it is. And it blooms once a year. It puts out these. You cut off a piece, stick it in soil, makes a new plant. So I've cut off too many because now I only have about three left. So I'm letting bloom. December, January, somewhere around there. Romeo, it's just again one of those easy plants that, I mean, some people call them dentist office plants, but I don't know. I think it's lovely. It grows. I have one that's now 4 feet tall, so I'm keeping it. Let's see how this one is. This is another begonia. Again, the flowers, and then this is a scented geranium that lives outside in the summer. I think it's rose. Yeah, I think so. And I think it's just lovely. And it's, again, never gets a disease. It just grows. I have to keep cutting it back. That's one of the things with pelargoniums, is you must keep pinching them back. Now, I have 3 or 4 that are outrageously too big. One in the corner there, and I will cut them back. But I just love the tree aspect of them for now. And then I will, as they say, bite the bullet or bite the cutting and cut them way back and have them, because if you cut them back, they become bushier. They're not quite as, exuberant as. And then this, lastly, is also a begonia, macrophylla. I have 2 of them. That's really a shrub. Unfortunately, I don't have enough room to give it full range, but last year I had them in the garage, they didn't do anything. This year I brought them into the greenhouse, and all of a sudden they loved it and they started moving. So there they are, and they're very tolerant. I walk by, I brush against them, they don't mind. So that's fine. Anyway, so, I want to show you this. I have something. This is an albuca, and it's called, guess what? It's called Frizzle Frazzle because of these. And Frizzle Frazzle has a flower. And you see all these flowers are opening, frizzle flowers are opening, and they're on top. And again, it's just one of those funny plants that requires very little attention. You just feed it once every month and water it, and that's it. And again, this should be, somewhere on exhibit. I haven't got the room, so it's just something here. And these are oxalis that are called false shamrock because they look like shamrock. In fact, I bought this at Ward and it was labeled shamrock. It's not. It's oxalis. They're tiny little bulbs. Again, just delightful. And you put them on a windowsill. They're small. They don't take up much room. And look at the flowers. Look at these lovely, lovely flowers. There are many different kinds. I have 2, 3, 4 different kinds. This hasn't bloomed yet. This is brand new, so this hasn't bloomed. Anyway, that's something else that I did want to point out. Okay, so I don't know if you have questions.
If anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I can read them and they can be answered. And I have a question, Bosco.
Yes.
Do all of these things move outside in the summer?
Yes. In the summertime, everything moves outside. Hopefully half of them are given away. All the begonias go outside and all the succulents go outside. And this place gets locked down, the ventilation stops and is baked for about 4 weeks. It gets to be really hot, kills off whatever bugs, insects, whatever could be in here is killed off by the heat. Yeah, everything goes out. Nothing stays in here.
And someone else asked, do you heat your greenhouse or is the solar gain enough?
No, I heat it. I have a propane heater, which is back there. It is, this is the heater here. It's set for 50 degrees. It's not an orchid house where you have to have it, 65, 70 degrees at night. It's at 50 degrees. It goes up depending. I mean, as I say, now it was 85, and it'll stay warm, and at night it'll go down to 50, and that seems to work. It also seems to encourage plants to be stronger and discourages disease, definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
Someone is curious about the greenhouse itself and how it works, and they're asking for views of the outside. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if we can get outside in an easy way, but I will
No,
try.
unfortunately, that was a mistake that I made. I should have had a door here, but I was so anxious to have as much inside room as possible that I only made one door. And if I were to do it again, I would have another door here to go outside.
Right. And in case anybody didn't see at the beginning of the program, the greenhouse is connected to the garage where there's a little potting shed set up. So that's where the door is, which is why it's tough to get outside. But maybe a little bit about ventilation, Bosco?
It's very, very important for greenhouses to be properly ventilated because the movement of the air again discourages disease and makes the air move, makes the humidity move. So I have a permanent fan that goes 24 hours a day, 24/7. It's been going for 6 years. It hasn't stopped. So it's
Wow.
I turn it off. And in addition to that, I put extra fans. Now here, this draws air, and this is connected to a vent on the other side. Air is drawn from there and sucked out by this big fan here.
Mhm.
Now I can also open, which I have done now, open the garage door, which adds extra. And there's a screen on it so that I can even close the door and leave the screen. I can show a picture of the outside if I can just grab my phone if it's here, because I've got a lot of pictures of it. If you don't mind, just.
No, happy to hold on.
Hold on.
And I can just walk around and show people beautiful plants while you do that. And if anybody else has questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. Bosco, how does the nursery section of the greenhouse compare in temperature to the main greenhouse?
About the same. You mean
About the
this right
same.
here?
Yeah.
It's about the same. It gets different light.
Mm.
It probably gets more light because light starts earlier here. But it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
And I see you have a hose set up so you can water right in here. You don't have to.
Except, okay, this is, I'm glad you raised that point. I have a hose, which we installed in the very beginning, but we are on very hard water. And so we have a water softener. Water softener works with salt. Plants don't like salt.
Right.
So I have, and actually this you can show. There, you see that the rain pipe that's coming down? It's coming down from the roof
Yeah.
and it feeds into a tank in the garage that's filled with rainwater. And I pump the rainwater
Into
over here. And that's what
here.
so I only use rainwater for watering plants. Right.
And someone wants to know if they can buy some of these beautiful propagated plants at the library plant sale in May.
Absolutely, at 2 places, but primarily at the library plant sale, and also at the flower market in Kent. There's a flower market, and I do that usually first, I think it's Thursday, whatever it is. I do it there as well, and I do there it's for grain relief. So
Nice.
yeah, absolutely. I must say that there hasn't been much demand at the library sale because, you know, people are looking for tomato plants and outdoor plants, not so much indoor plants at the beginning of the season. So, but absolutely, absolutely, all these babies are gonna show up. This is the greenhouse being big.
And in case you don't know, the library has a great fundraising plant sale that happens on Saturday and Sunday of a weekend in May. Usually it's about the 3rd weekend in May. We haven't set the date yet. And all the proceeds go to support the David M. Hunt Library, and all of the plants are grown by people locally, which is amazing. And another question, Bosco,
Yes.
is it important not to let all those plants get pot bound?
Okay, that's a good, as I said, good question. Yes, it's important, but do not pot up too soon and do not pot up into pots that are oversized. There's no better way to kill a plant than to put a small one in a big pot. So only pot up one size bigger. So if you have a 4-inch pot, 6-inch pots, 6-inch pot, even don't overplant. And some plants, for example, begonias, love being pot down. Clivias, which I have down there, which I'm not going to tell you about. Clivias love being pot down. They should not be potted up. A good sign for potting up is when you have, let's say you have it sitting, in a saucer or here, and you notice that there are roots growing on the outside. That's it's time to pot up. It's time to pot up. Also, I mean, this, for example, this is a baby. I think probably in a couple of months, you see, look, there's the root.
They're starting to come out.
Yeah, so that's the time to put them on. The other consideration is clay versus plastic pots, which is always a big topic of discussion. I favor clay pots because I think they look better. Also, they evaporate water. In other words, you're less likely to over water or soak your plants if they're in a clay pot. On the other hand, a plastic pot, which I use for the babies, holds moisture much longer and is lighter to carry around. So I'm reading the plant sale, I will use plastic pots.
Great.
I think it's a very important consideration.
Great.
Then I've got things like, I mean, this might be fun. Those are cuttings. This is the geranium leaf. Geraniums, about begonia leaves. Begonia leaves. I stuck it in here and with a little bit of hormone powder, gosh, I don't know, 3 months ago, and held it down with a little bit of wire. It is beginning to put out a new plant on the side.
Wow, that's amazing.
So anyway, those are kind of fun things that you can do when you're propagating. And others, sometimes I just plant a leaf and hope for the best.
And is it in the plastic bag to kind of create its own mini
Yes,
greenhouse?
exactly.
Yeah.
To keep it humid.
Nice.
One of the things that is important, but two things. Deadheading, of course, to keep geraniums going at the deadhead. Also, taking off all the yellow leaves, and God knows there's so many every day in the yellow leaves. But I do it, and I think it makes the greenhouse look better, and it's better for the plants, and it keeps the greenhouse clean. Cleanliness is very important in the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I sweep every day because it just breeds disease. The other thing is, again, I think it's good. If we have houseplants, they live in a house where we live, we don't like it to be humid unless it's in the bathroom. But plants need humidity. They like the humidity. So what I do, and I do it here because I don't want it to go on the floor, but put them in trays with gravel. See? And then let the water just come. Don't let them sit in it because that's bad. Don't let them sit in water, but just so that the surface is wet. And then you put the plant on it. This will evaporate all day long and keep the plant happy.
Oh, that's smart.
And you can do it on the plate. You can do it on one of these plastic. And that's why this normally, this bench, does not have gravel. It's transparent. But I put down Methylene gravel because I want that humidity.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Now this I don't know where We have time, but this is fun. This is a cactus.
Oh, yeah, we shouldn't miss this one.
Ripsala. And it is already in bud. These are babies that I started and haven't potted up. Oh. Did you see the flowers?
Oh, wow.
And it was covered in its flowers. They're all very messy because they were all over the place. But I think it's great fun.
And you said it's a cactus.
Yeah, it is a cactus, and it's called mistletoe cactus. But it is like a mistletoe.
If anybody has any last questions, feel free to ask them now. Bosco, Paige mentioned at the beginning that you were growing a lot of these plants on the windowsill. Did you have moderate success growing these on the
Yes, but you
windowsill?
have to keep moving them around.
Uh-huh.
You know, for example, begonias, they say, east windows in the winter, west windows in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the south windows. So what are you going to put in the south window? So you always have to, adjust where it is and look and see if they're happy. And maybe it's better than putting them all together. I don't know, but it just got to be more. And also you don't enjoy them as much because you walk by them and yeah, I have some still out on the kitchen window, but I just like them all together. But yeah, we did have some success. Look at this pelargonium. It's called apple blossom rose.
Wow.
Isn't that pretty?
It's beautiful. Let's see if I can get the sun. Oh,
Sorry.
lovely. No, that was great. Thank you. Someone wants to know, do you use cold frames for vegetables?
No, we use cold frames for forcing bulbs.
Is that what those are outside?
Yes,
Yeah, so
exactly.
let me
That's
see
what-
if I can give you a decent view. You can see
Right.
here, these are the cold frames.
Yeah, they're cold frames. We fill them with shavings and we plant bulbs, narcissus and tulip and some other small bulbs in the fall, in October, and bury them in there. And then probably start taking them out in February.
Great.
Picture of.
All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us on this beautiful sunny day in Bosco's greenhouse. And thanks so much, Bosco, for showing us
Very
around all your
welcome.
beautiful plants.
My pleasure.
Have a
Right.
great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you, Meg.